角川ゲームスデジカゲーム天国クルージンミックススペシャル
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Hey, What's This? This is Amar. I'm once again going solo, and I'm here to show you the game Paradise, or the Game Tengoku Cruisin Mix Special. This is a new 2018 update that came out just a few days ago. It adds, I believe, another character and a couple of remixes, but the big thing that it adds is a complete English translation. So this game has been out, as you can see from the copyright there, since 2017. Or rather, this version of the game has been out since 2017. But totally in Japanese. So in addition to the upcoming physical PS4 release, they will be getting this full English translation. Now, this is a game that I believe, yeah, there you go, came out in 1997 on the, I think, arcades and Saturn. So you'll get the gist of it in just a second, but this is a kind of like a parody game, a parody of like other Jalico shooters and also just like otaku culture in general. So, you know, very of its time. You can probably tell this is not a modern game. This was released originally in 1997, brought over to Saturn, and then brought over here again. It's a little bit of a big deal just because if you are the kind of person who imported Japanese shooters, you'd definitely be the kind of person who would also watch some subtitled anime on VHS and appreciate like the kind of things it's throwing at. So I talked a little bit over it right there in the beginning, but you know, you got the main voice actress here who is playing the character of the arcade center or game center employee. Basically, a perverted professor called Genius Yamada comes in, decides that he's going to take over all of the gaming world, and she decides to stop him by combining several arcade boards together. And I made a little bit of reference of this being a very like otaku targeted kind of shooter, or both parodying it but also like kind of playing to it. And to give you like an idea of what kind of game this is, they got a whole bunch of very famous anime voice actors, famous enough that they specifically put all their faces and names on the arcade flyers, just so you would make sure, hey, you know, your favorite voice actress and voice actors are in this game. And they even released a, I think like 20-minute anime OAV special with some versions of the game. That's not in this version of the game, but you can definitely find it like online and stuff. I'm gonna skip this because this goes for a while, but yeah, there is like a whole anime opening for this. Okay, so like I said, this is the console version, basically. Basically, it'll come with the arcade mode and the arrange mode, which adds a couple new things that we'll get to. Not a lot of options here, unfortunately. You can turn on auto bomb. You can change the lives and difficulty. I'm gonna leave auto bomb on. I'm gonna keep it on normal difficulty. We're gonna go into arcade mode first. We're gonna try out the first level. This gives you a choice between Yoko and Tate mode, or horizontal and vertical mode. Either way, this version is formatted for the 4:3 screens, just like the Saturn version. We got a couple of different characters. I'm gonna pick this one. This is the robot from Formation Z, I think it's called. Yeah, it's Formation Z, which is like a Jellicoe game where you switch between a robot form and a spaceship form. Here the robot just flies, so you don't need to be a spaceship in that. So you can see there's a lot of pre-rendered. This is very, it uses pre-rendered 3D graphics really heavily. One thing that I would like to note is that I made a little, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but there is not a lot of display settings in this version. You can hold these triggers and press left and right to get the different wallpapers. Let's go to Formation Z, change the brightness, but there's no like monitor or TV style, CRT style kind of filters on here to like take out the kind of harshness of like the color banding and dithering of these graphics. It's just sort of the raw pixels, which you know, really aren't, which for like the pixel art itself, you know, that's fine. It works well enough, but for some of the the pre-rendered stuff, it definitely would have helped to have a little bit of that. So you might see me collecting eggplants over here. These eggplants are the main collectible, and that's the main scoring system in this game. So how it works is, as you collect eggplants, they go up in points, and then can hit up to 10,000 points, and then just right there, as you saw, if you were at the max chain of 10,000 points, every eggplant you get will be subsequently 10,000 points, but also every eggplant that you create that wasn't previously on screen, when you're at the 10,000 point level, will turn into a medium eggplant, which will be worth 48,050 points. Ooh, there we go. So that was the first level. We took down that possessed arcade machine. If you are good and do not die right before the end, like I did, all the eggplants are going to be counted again. As you can see, there's a counter over there. We're gonna return to the main menu. We're gonna go back to the range mode and try that. So yeah, those will be counted again for an extra score bonus. So that's the main scoring mechanic. It's pretty simple and straightforward, but it is a lot of fun, and it changes the way that you route your way through a stage. So I found that pretty engaging. We're gonna go with a different character. For range mode, they also added the Genesis 3, piloted by Miki. I think she's from Field Combat. But as you can see, there are new subtitles on all these animated sections. I do wish they gave some subtitles for their like beginning of the level barks and the boss barks, those kind of things. Even if they might have been a little distracting, it would have been nice to have the option. But there's a lot of these interstitials between levels here. There is legitimately maybe several audio CDs worth of dialogue in here. Like, they really tried to get the most out of their voice actors for this game. You know, we're paying for these expensive voice actors. You might as well you know, get the most out of them. So range includes, you know, it includes that new character which I'm playing as right now. And it also includes a lot of those interstitials. Like, there's a lot of parodies and gags between those, a lot of dialogue between the different characters in it. So we're gonna do this. We'll see the next interstitial a little bit. I don't want to wait for all of them because, you know, That'll take quite a long time. And for somebody who's interested in that, it's probably better for them to just look at it for themselves. There you go. So that's how you'll make some big points. Every one of these characters does feel unique. They have like different shot patterns and different kind of strengths and weaknesses. Like the Genesis 3 that whoa. Oh, that's a shame. Those aren't gonna. Oh no, as long as you don't continue, I guess. It will be counted. The shot patterns. Range might change the rules about how scoring works a little bit. The characters all feel very different. They all have the different strengths and weaknesses, like I said. This character here, you got a rather short range shot, but you get those little drones at the top. I believe they change per level, but you'll have to kind of rely on them for long range fire. They kind of home in on the closest person, so that's not too bad. But it definitely makes it harder to kind of get the full screen coverage. There we go. So we'll have another interstitial here. These are all very elaborate. The voice acting, honestly, overall seems pretty good. I mean, these are professional voice actors, and you know, I feel like this is a little bit different than if they did an English dub. That, you know, of that era. I feel like the anime was in a little bit different place, which probably people appreciated. But yeah, a big thing about this game is that it was pretty hard to find. Like a lot of Saturn games become these kind of like cult classics, especially like import stuff, and then they kind of go up in price. This game in particular is kind of like one of those games that's like, because of all the gags and the parody stuff and all like the otaku culture stuff, like commands a very strong niche. So it's kind of like highly sought out, and you know, it's finally got an actual English release now, you know, with fully translated in the gags. So it feels really out of its time. Like personally, as somebody who like, you know, was a child in the 90s, a lot of these like anime and arcade references are just totally over my head, and they do feel weird to go back to in 2018, even if you have like sort of a history with anime, like even if you like watch some of the old stuff, just because like the specific things they're drawing on are like very of their time. A couple of the games this draws from, the Jalico games, they haven't seen, they're not like huge here in the US, but they have seen a couple of PS4 hamster re-releases. I don't know if all of them are in English. I know they definitely are in, most of them at least have been re-released in on PS4 in Japan. I don't know if they've all come here, because the arcade archives, the hamster arcade archives, kind of lag behind here. But you can kind of see how like something like this, like the very elaborate 2D animated characters, would have been really impressive then. And for the most part, like the 2D animated stuff holds up pretty well. It's really more that oh shoot. It's really more that CG stuff that is a little bit harder to, I guess it's not hard to do to look at. It's just like it has not aged as gracefully, let's say. Overall, I've gone through the arcade mode. I haven't spent a lot of time with the range mode stuff just because before now I didn't have any way of actually understanding it and kind of enjoying the jokes. But I think this game kind of gets stronger in the second half. I feel like its gags get a little bit more focused, where the first one is just, you know, the arcade center and then the crane games. They really start getting into like more specific games. Like this one's very like typical space shooter stuff. You know, it's got some cool mech designs and stuff like that. And then the ones right after start just really getting into the game-specific parodies and like drawing on Jalico's own history and stuff like that, which works a lot better. There are some Jalico arcade machines you can see in the background on the first level, actually, which are some of the games that are the characters from this game are from as well. I think I got a big eggplant there. So big eggplants are, you'll see some enemies drop some big eggplants. Those are only worth 50 points, so you want to shoot them, pick up the smaller eggplants for more points, and usually they'll so once you get like 6 of them, you'll hit that 10,000 point scoring. So yeah, like right here, you want to get as many as you can. Oh, yeah. So that that's a good place where if you play cleanly, you can pick up 6 of them, start the chain, and then just keep destroying them to get a ton more eggplants. And then you know you got the big super robot stuff going on here. Oh. Definitely walked into the wrong place there. The Genesis 3 is really powerful. These boss fights are like a little bit trivialized by having them in there. Okay, and then this is actually, the range mode also adds like 2 new stages. So after this, we're gonna actually see, and I believe there's a new one. I'm gonna skip this. You're gonna lose a little bit of context, but like I said, I think those are worth enjoying on their own. So this is like a karaoke boss. So there's a full-on karaoke sequence in this stage, where you can listen to this pop idol sing her heart out as she's, you know, got the full animation in the back. The lyrics of the song start coming in and you destroy them. The score for the karaoke goes up, and once it hits max, then the stage is over. But part of the gag is also that if you finish the stage early, you don't get to listen to the whole song. Which is given the audience for this is, you know, a very specific gag, since they'd probably be the kind of people who would be wanting to see the whole musical sequence. Anyway, I'm gonna cut that off here. There's a couple good gags as well in the other stage, which is like a Toki Meki Memorial like dating sim parody. Real quick, I'm gonna go into the arcade mode. I'm going to go, let's go back down. We'll go into stage 4. So this is, so normally this would be stage 4. So what this adds, this is not lining. This adds the high score mode, as in the online high score mode, and I believe this is also where you can play with new DLC characters. Each of them will have their own like songs and other stuff like that. You'll see a little bit, but this is the only one that you can play online. So you need to reset all your. Obviously, you can only play with default settings, but you jump in on any stage here. And another thing that's changed, you might have noticed, the aspect ratio is different. So instead of the 4:3 aspect ratio here, we get the little bit more modern vertical monitor format. So that actually lets you see a lot more of the stage, which I really like. It gives you a lot more awareness of what's coming up and stuff. And you can, in like the pre-rendered artwork and stuff looks a little better when it's not kind of being, you know, stretched out to a modern resolution. It can kind of be seen more at its like original pixel ratios. They do give you some options. The two options you can get are to like get it stretched, which for the original game is sort of the intended experience to be stretched a little bit. Otherwise, they give you what they call dot by dot, which is I guess the Japanese term for like pixel perfect, which just gives you the raw pixels, but the image might seem a little bit squished because they're generally made with the knowledge that the images are going to be stretched a little bit to the arcade monitors. Like a lot of arcade games are actually made that way. So the ratio is gonna, the proportions rather, are gonna feel a little bit off in the pixel perfect mode, but you know, some people want their square pixels, so it's fine. But yeah, this is the arcade HD mode. Honestly, pretty good way to experience it. I do wish that you could play the range mode stages like this, but I get why they don't have it in here. You can still play the range mode stages. I just kind of like the HD presentation a little bit better. A really cool other feature that they've got here is data mode. So this is their like a small archive. It's not a proper like complete archive, but if you go into here, you can actually find screenshots of each game that the characters come from. You'll get a little bit of information about them, and then there's some, you know, documents. So you get the flyers, instruction cards. Some of these have a little bit more information than the others. None of these are like subtitled or anything, which would have been nice. But some of them, you know, you get the PC version, box art and stuff like that, which is really cool. And then you get to, you know, get some of like the actual art. But one really cool thing is there's full voiced commentary by the voice actors, which this has all been subtitled as well. And there's like I mentioned this earlier before, but there's 3 other characters, one from Bases Loaded, one from City Connection, I think another one from Momoko 120%. Each of those will add new commentary and more of this archive stuff for that specific game. The cool thing about this is it's not just straightforward commentary. There's a lot of flavor text, or rather flavored dialogue. So you get like the voice actor for the character from Exerion kind of bragging, and everybody shit talking him in return. My favorite one is the one for Buta-san, which Pig is from. So we're gonna go in here real quick. Also known as Psycho Pigs UXB. Apparently it had some controversial gaming advertisements, which are not included in here, which, you know, seems lacking for historical purposes, but, you know, this is a game where you basically fight a whole bunch of pigs. You can see just a lot of different pigs designs, and each of the bombs counts down, and as they blow up, they will, you know, chain into other bombs. So you're basically trying to throw bombs at other pigs without getting exploded yourself. Here's some really good flyers from there. Like I really love this PC version cover. I wish you could zoom in. Like it's a little bit lacking as far as like archival quality standards, like just being able to zoom into the art, make it full screen and things like that. It does seem like they've got some pretty high resolution scans of these, so I would have liked to see them. The commentary on this one is really good, and each of the commentary will go through like different images and stuff, title screens, stuff, as they go. Like there's a little slideshow that syncs up with the dialogue. So yeah, there's a home console version now. Thanks, hamster. But yeah, here's the part where you get a little bit of the sense that the pig from Butasan was not very straightforward about what this game actually was. There's some good dialogue in here. If I'm not quite as amused this time, it's because this is the third time I'm recording this. So, you know, I'm not salty or anything, definitely not, but, you know, I failed the recording twice and I've had to do this a third time, but... no, but, yeah, there's some pretty good dialogue in here. Like I said, there's, like, an audio drama's worth of voice acting in this game, and you know, you can actually understand it this time because it's all subtitled. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid release of a pretty niche game. If you kind of like, this isn't quite as like elaborate as something like a, you know, the SNK collection has, or in terms of like presenting these games in their historical moment, because you know it's really just an extra for Game Tengoku to give you a little background on them, not as opposed to like a proper collection. But it is really cool to kind of see the treatment given to them. So, you know, it's something I would actually be interested in seeing more of. And it really makes me happy to see, like, some of these niche games that otherwise are kind of, like, unplayable today get, like, a proper release. And, you know, especially something like this, get, like, get everything subtitled. Like, Darius Burst was also made by the same people. Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors specifically was also made by the same people, and that game, they left a lot of the instructions and stuff untranslated. So just one last thing before we go. Oops, I messed up already. This is the time attack mode. So, well, you might think that time attack mode would just be kind of a retread of the arcade mode. It's actually a completely different mode with two different stages. Basically, you get a time limit to go through this stage, which kind of like provides you the ability to do a lot of powerful attacks like from the go, and a lot of chances to chain attacks, and you just kind of see how much of a high score you can get. It's a really neat idea. Reminds me of something like a Pac-Man Championship Edition, which kind of like, you know, moves the score attack stuff, or even like they used to have these in old games, like the Hudson Caravan style modes, where you play 5 minutes of the game and see how high a score you can get. That kind of stuff. That stuff is really cool. I know I've talked a lot about the hamster collections, but those actually include the caravan style modes, which, if you don't know, were I don't know if Hudson started it or they just popularized it, but they used to have like a summer caravan which would drive around with their games, like stuff like Star Soldier, I believe, and you would compete for 5 minutes to see how high a score you could get. And that, you know, that was just like a nationwide competition kind of stuff, which was, you know, which is a really cool idea. And then so those caravan modes kind of like ended up in different games, and then you know, like Pac-Man Championship Tradition is basically like, what if what if Pac-Man was like a caravan style score attack game? And I think I kind of appreciate those a lot more, just because otherwise it just becomes, a lot of these arcade games become about just your endurance of doing an hour or several hours runs, and the 5 minute score attacks feel a little bit more accessible, as far as, you know, you can play them for five minutes or a few minutes, depending on how long the limit is. And just kind of do your best on each one of those. So it's like really easy to try again and then get a new route. And you know that's got online as well. So honestly, if your friends are the kind of people who are into the shoot 'em ups, that would be my preferred way to score attack this game. Not that the regular game isn't really fun to score attack, but oh, see, that could have been like tons of eggplants if I did it properly. Tons of medium eggplants, rather. Not that the full game isn't fun to score attack, it's just it takes a while. It'll probably take you like 30 minutes to get through the whole game, which doesn't seem a lot, but for shoot 'em up is kind of sort of lengthy. And then, you know, you have to do the second loop, which becomes harder. So a lot of it just becomes sort of about like a more surviving for like half an hour to an hour, which can get really stressful really fast. Where time attack, like, it doesn't care how many times you die. It's just when the time's up, the time's up. The only thing that you lose from dying is your momentum and your ability to pick up a couple of, you know, scoring pieces or destroying things. So like, as just like a pure game, as a game package kind of thing, the addition of stuff like that and like the different archival stuff is really helps it make it feel like it's worth the price, just because shoot 'em ups can get a little bit pricey, and if you're not like super into the niche, it's hard to see the appeal if you're not really into like the scoring stuff. But this sort of rounds it out and makes it feel a little bit more approachable. Otherwise, I'm gonna finish this run. I'm not gonna claim that this is a good run, but let's finish the run. Let's put a high score out there. If anybody else does pick it up, feel free to beat my high score and rub it in my face. And then maybe that'll light a fire under my ass, and you'll see me time attacking this for several hours, which honestly, starting a high score competition with your friends as opposed to the entire world like leaderboards tend to do, it's a really good way to get you to kind of appreciate the more nuanced aspects of the genre. But yeah, I'm really glad about this collection. I say collection, but it's really just one game. But I'm really glad about this version coming out and being out there. I want to see more for this. For, you know, kind of like other games that have been hard to find. I know Dejika's kind of been like in that space, publishing all these and bringing these all over and doing that work. So that's been, you know, seeing them put out stuff like this is really encouraging. Nope. What an anticlimactic way to end that. But yeah, that's my high score. Feel free to beat it. And hopefully, you know, you found something new here. Find out at least the gag, going through these gags, pretty interesting. Alright everybody, I'll see you next time. Peace.